What's up, Flannelverse? It is time for the final Monday Night Football Showdown of the season. We have the Texans at the Steelers. Final game of Wild Card weekend. It's been a pretty fun weekend as far as football goes. Mostly some very tight games. Maybe all. Were there any games that were not super tight? It feels like it was a very strong weekend for some football. Hopefully that continues tonight with the Texans and the Steelers. Appreciate you, Aaron. I am feeling much better. I'm still not 100%, which feels like it's been a long time. It's been over 2 weeks at this point. Still not 100%, but I am hopeful that I can get through the show just fine. I've got a canker sore developing, so soon next week I think I'll be 100% finally recovered. Anyway, we're going to be doing the usual position by position, starting with quarterbacks, then running backs, receivers, tight ends, defenses, kickers. I will take questions as we go. I'll be making lineups at the end for the showdown slate. All right, we're going to start with quarterbacks. CJ Stroud, 10,200, projected for 58% flex ownership, 18% captain ownership. I got to 56% flex, 23% captain in my first run of the Sims. Again, I haven't done anything to the inputs, so this is all just based on the run the Sims inputs. I'm fine with that. I think CJ Stroud, a fantastic play. In terms of the matchup, this is the fourth best matchup schedule adjusted over the past 5 weeks. So Pittsburgh has just been a great matchup for quarterbacks. We have not had a lot of that in these playoffs, that we actually have a positive matchup here. So good to see that for CJ Stroud. Yeah, I plan to play a lot of CJ Stroud. No real notes there. I did want to make a note because we had the conversation in Discord today. It was brought up, with the total being so low, if you have a quarterback in the captain spot, can you play the quarterback with maybe just one pass catcher instead of multiple pass catchers? And I would say, you can play just one pass catcher with a quarterback. There's always like outs to that working out, but it's no different than most games with non-rushing quarterbacks, because if the quarterback is going to be the optimal captain, you need the team to score a lot of points. Almost always, not always exactly, but generally, if the quarterback is going to be the optimal captain, it's because they put up a lot of fantasy points, and it's harder for the quarterback to score fantasy points than basically any other position, because again, they get outscored by the receiver on every passing play. The receiver gets a point per reception. They get more points per yard. They get more points per touchdown. And the same applies to running backs. The running backs get more points per yard, even on running plays, more points per yard, more points per touchdown than the quarterback does on getting yardage through the air. So typically, if the quarterback is going to be the optimal captain, if it's a non-rushing quarterback, pretty much if it's a rushing quarterback too, but it's going to be because the team puts up a lot of points. So the low total, if the game ends up at the total, that probably means the quarterback is not going to be the optimal captain, because again, all the other positions can rack up points more easily. The way the quarterback can outscore the others is they just have more volume than the other positions. So if there are 3 passing touchdowns, it's the quarterback is very likely going to account for all of them. Obviously, there's some situations like Jawan Jennings this weekend, but usually the quarterback's going to account for all of the passing touchdowns, whereas the receivers might be spread out. So I would not say the rule is any different with a lower total than usual. You still, with either of these quarterbacks, if I have them in my lineup, I want them to be stacked up. If I have them in the captain spot, I'd like them to be with multiple pass catchers. And certainly you can include the running backs as pass catchers in that equation. CJ Stroud looks great. Aaron Rodgers, 9,800, projected for 37% flex ownership, 8% captain ownership. I'm getting to 34% flex, 4% captain. So a little bit underweight to Aaron Rodgers. I'm also fine with that. I think CJ Stroud is just a better play than Aaron Rodgers on this slate. Much better matchup. Obviously, the Texans just a killer defense. And actually, I'll look at schedule adjusted. It is actually not as bad for quarterbacks over the last 5 weeks. It's fairly middling, middling in terms of the matchup, but still just not expecting as much from the passing game for the Steelers. In terms of pass rate over expectation, you can see the Texans are 10th, the Steelers are 12th. So both teams, top, they're pretty close in terms of pass rate over expectation on the season. I was kind of looking for trends and I didn't filter it out, but it does at least look like the Texans have more games where they were below average in terms of pass rate over expectation in recent weeks. That kind of surprised me. Week 17 and 18, they were well below average in terms of pass rate over expectation. I'm not reading too much into that, though. I think that's probably a matter of, and I didn't look into the opponents, or I think it's kind of a fluke thing. I would expect them to still pass the ball quite a bit rather than relying on Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. I think that's it as far as running backs go. And again, as quarterbacks go, again, for both of them, you're going to, oh God, Caleb, you're going to want to be stacking them up. All right. Caleb, appreciate you. Caleb says, favorite underrated wide receivers last decade. I'll go with Michael Floyd and Early Doucette, both Cardinals. Man, underrated receivers of the past decade. Now I got to think, first of all, who are receivers from the past decade that are not, like, don't immediately come to mind? Probably this one, it does not qualify as that, and I'm terrible at the remember a guy game. Julio Jones, but is he underrated? I feel like everybody loves Julio Jones. I would say Michael Thomas maybe is probably a bit underrated at this point. Like, I think he's just one of the most talented receivers in the league, or was one of the most talented. Michael Crabtree, I like that call out. I'll have to think about it a little bit more, but I appreciate you very much, Caleb, for the super chat. Maybe others can throw out their underrated wide receivers of the last 10 years. Yeah, it's good. That's a good question. All right. But I'm terrible at the remember a guy game. It's not a strength of mine. Wait, who Jones? Who are you talking about? All right, moving on to running backs. All right. Running backs. We'll start with the Pittsburgh side. Kenneth Gainwell, 8,800, projected for 34% flex, 7% captain ownership. I'm getting to 45% flex, 9% captain, so a little bit over the field on Kenneth Gainwell. I think Kenneth Gainwell is a fantastic play. Happy to be well over the field, or a little bit over the field. I guess I'm not well over the field on Kenneth Gainwell. Looking at the bell cow report for the past 4 weeks, Kenneth Gainwell is being out. Jaylen Warren getting more carries than Kenneth Gainwell, 52 to 34, but 26 targets for Kenneth Gainwell over the past 4 games. Just an insane target share for Kenneth Gainwell, which is obviously worth a lot, especially in a game that could be pretty low scoring. Just racking up PPR points matters so much in these games. So I think Kenneth Gainwell, with double-digit target upside is a fantastic play. Happy to be above the field there. And I will note, and then Jaylen Warren, the other one, 9,000 projected for 24-4. I'm getting to 36-7, so over the field there as well. Happy to be over the field on Jaylen Warren too. Again, Jaylen Warren getting more carries than Kenneth Gainwell over the past 4 weeks. Looks like 13 carries per game, along with 10 targets. Again, you'd prefer it if Jaylen Warren was more involved in the passing game, obviously, but he is getting the carries. And then you look at the inside the 5. Jaylen Warren has actually gotten more inside the 5 carries than Kenneth Gainwell over the past 4 weeks as well. They'll work in both. I think it's kind of a matter of who's on the field, but certainly can get those inside the 5 carries as well. So I like both of the Steelers running backs. Okay. Oh, I see. I always get the pronunciation wrong of Julio. Did I say Julio? Okay. Julio Jones. Okay. Yeah, I get that wrong. Jordy Nelson left the Packers and didn't do anything, right? Didn't he completely fall apart after he left the Packers? So I don't know. I think he might have been an Aaron Rodgers product. Maybe not. But that's kind of my thought of anybody who left Aaron Rodgers and fell apart, which there were several. There was a string of receivers who were on the Packers. They were great with the Packers, and then after they left the Packers, just weren't that great. And I think Jordy Nelson, to me, was one of those receivers. So then I question, was he as good as I thought he was? Because I thought he was great also. But it could have been circumstantial. I don't really know. I have a lot of Nico Collins and Woody Marks in playoff best ball. I don't have specific teams that I'm worried about too much, but yeah. I know you're a Vikings fan, but damn, do you look like the definition of a Bears fan? I don't know. I don't know what I think of that. All right. No disrespect. Okay. All right, good. Sean thinks it can be a field goal game. That certainly could be the case. I mean, yeah, AB till he went crazy is actually right. Like, I agree with that. AB was awesome. Anquan Bolden, that's a great one. That was my first ever Superfractor card. I just really wanted a Superfractor. I bought an Anquan Bolden, not even a rookie year. It was just like, it was $100 on eBay. I was like, I like Anquan Bolden, and I bought it. I sold it eventually because I sell all my cards eventually. But I did at one point have an Anquan Bolden Superfractor. So that was cool. My first ever. All right. On the Texan side, we have no Jawar Jordan tonight. Excuse me. I also don't talk most of the day these days. Like, my wife is at work. We didn't do the show with Adam today, so like my voice is just like, my cough is much better, but like still kind of lingering, and just it's not used to being used, my throat. So bear with me. All right, Woody Marks, 8,200 projected for 42% flex, 12% captain ownership. I'm getting a little bit under the field on Woody Marks with 36% flex, 6% captain. Again, we can look at the bell cow report for the last 4 weeks. Woody Marks, 36 carries. He's only played in 3 of those games. So in 3 games, 12 carries per game, 2 targets per game on 27.7% route participation. Again, Jawar Jordan is going to be out for this game. We can look at, let's see the snapshot report. Did we get it? I think we might have had a game with no Jawar Jordan. Let's see. No, he's been in the last 4 games, playing fewer snaps the last couple. Nick Chubb down to 8.1%, 8.1% snaps in week 17 before not playing in week 18. I think that was a product of Jawar Jordan just taking on more of the work there. And then where is Dare Ogunbowale? He was back up to 14% in week 18. I'm trying to figure out mostly the RB2 situation for the Texans, because I'll show you what the Sims are giving me. Let's see. So he was up in weeks 15 and 16. Was Dare Ogunbowale? Was Woody Marks? Okay, Woody Marks got hurt in week 15. Okay, so he really benefited from Woody Marks being out, as you would expect, and then Marks came back in week 17, and Dare Ogunbowale kind of went away, but again, that was because they also had Jawar Jordan in there. It's kind of a messy situation with the RB2s. Woody Marks, I'd be fine getting close to the field, and actually I should pull up the matchups for the running backs also. It is a slightly below average matchup for the Steelers running backs. It is more below average for the Texans running backs. Looks like it's about a bottom of 11 or so matchup for Texans running backs. So not an ideal spot for the running backs here. But Woody Marks, pretty good workload in his, these last 3 games played. Not like awesome 12 carries per game plus a couple targets, but I do think that Jawar Jordan probably cut into his workload more than Nick Chubb and Dare Ogunbowale will. So I think Woody Marks a fairly strong play. And then, so the Sims you can see are giving me a lot of Dare Ogunbowale and none of Nick Chubb. So Ogunbowale 400 projected for 12% flex ownership, 0% captain ownership. I got to 38% flex, none at captain. And then Nick Chubb projected for 4% ownership. I didn't get to any. I'm a little bit tempted to, no, I shouldn't say I'm a little bit. I am tempted to, I am going to make sure I get to some Nick Chubb because I don't really think Dare Ogunbowale has the same contingent upside. Like, I think if something were to happen to Woody Marks, I don't think it would be Dare Ogunbowale just taking over the Woody Marks role. I'd expect it to be Nick Chubb getting the first and second downs, Dare Ogunbowale being more of a third down back. So I think this is a situation where Dare Ogunbowale is, has a standalone role potentially. You can expect him to probably get a couple targets here. And let's take a look at the bell cow report over the last 4 weeks. 7 total targets for Dare Ogunbowale. You'd expect that to go up with no Jawar Jordan, I would think. So maybe you can hope for 2 to 3 targets for Dario Gumbuale in this game. Also does have 7 carries, so maybe gets a couple carries, couple targets, maybe up to 3 apiece or so. And he's only 400. Is is the real reason to potentially like Dario Gumbuale here. Nick Chubb, I think, has more contingent upside. Like if anything were to happen to Woody Marks again, I would expect Nick Chubb to get more of that first and second down work, and he's not getting any ownership. So I actually think Nick Chubb is somebody that I will, and of course I always like the running back too. That applies here as well. I think Nick Chubb, will have some standalone role, and then does have contingent upside if anything were to happen to Woody Marks. I'm going to mute my mic for a second to cough. Give me 1 second here. Adventure Van says, I live in Illinois near Chicago. He isn't wrong. We all own a minimum of 40 flannels. All right. I guess it's an upper Midwest thing. We all wear the flannels. I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think Spelkowski has it about right. Ogunbowale, more like Ty Johnson. Chubb, more like Ray Davis. Who are you expecting the goal line back to be for Houston? We'll take a look at that. All right. Yeah, Marks is definitely no Derrick Henry. I never stop being sick. I'm not really sick at this point. It's just I have lingering, which apparently is common with this thing that I have, just a lingering cough. Maine definitely wears a lot of flannels. Of course, when I was in Vermont, I went to the Vermont Flannel Company grand opening of a store. All right. I think flannel pretty common in the north in general, I'd say, and parts of the south. So ultimately, we can look at who would get the goal line carries for the Texans inside the 5 over the last 5 weeks. It has been interesting. So Ogunbowale has actually gotten a third of the goal line carries. Marks and Jawar Jordan a sixth apiece. Now let's take a look at the full season, just for a larger sample here. So on the season, Woody Marks 37.5%, Nick Chubb 33%, Jawar Jordan 17%, Dario Ogunbowale 13%. Interesting. So Ogunbowale more of the carries inside the 5 over the last 4 weeks. So I guess that's promising that he's maybe they've found something with Ogunbowale that they like. But ultimately, I'm happy to have a lot of Dario Ogunbowale. The real appeal there is just doesn't need much to pay off his salary. If he just has 3 catches for 30 yards, you're pretty happy with that at 400. That could make the winning lineup, and that's well within the range of outcomes for Dario Ogunbowale in a regular game script. Nick Chubb is a tougher bet because he is 3,000. You need more. He could score a touchdown, still not be the player you need. But what I like about him is the 4% ownership. Nobody's excited to play Nick Chubb in 2026. Honestly, people weren't that excited to play Nick Chubb in 2023. Or pick a year. I feel like he's always been a little bit underrated as a fantasy asset. Now he is super underrated as a fantasy asset. So yeah, give me some Nick Chubb at 3,000. I'd like to have 10 to 12% Nick Chubb, something like that. Be above the field, benefit in the scenario where either they're just running a ton late in the game, they're icing out the clock, which could certainly happen here, or something happens to Woody Marks, they need Nick Chubb, or just like he is going to play enough that he could score a touchdown or something. So I do like the backup running backs on Houston. I don't know that I'll have 38% Dario Ogunbowale when all is said and done after I get to some more Chubb, but I don't mind it. All right, wide receiver. Nothing says a crazy and wild guy like visiting a flannel store opening when in Vermont. I mean, it's my brand. I couldn't not go. It's just like we walked by grand opening Vermont Flannel Company or whatever it was. It was like, we're not going to not go to that. I actually did not buy, I don't think I bought an actual flannel. I think all I bought was a t-shirt with a flannel pocket on it, because the flannel was like, I forget what the reason was. Might have been just the weather at the time and didn't have space. All right. So what are the projected ownerships for both the Ogunbowale and Chubb? Is that saying Ogunbowale is projected for near 10% ownership? Yes. So we have the projected ownership is 12% for Nick Chubb. 4% for Nick Chubb, 12% for Dare Ogunbowale. All right, moving on to wide receivers. Did I move it down? Let's see. Yes, I did. All right. Started with Nico Collins. Pretty clearly I shouldn't say pretty clearly because we do have DK Metcalf. Nico Collins pretty clearly at least the top wide receiver on the Texans. Looking at the matchups for wide receivers, it is a strong matchup overall for wide receivers. The 8th best matchup against Pittsburgh. I will note, if you are afraid at all of individual matchups, we don't have any projected shadow coverage on this slate. We do have Joey Porter as the primary defender of Nico Collins. That's not going to be enough to scare me off of Nico Collins, but it is worth noting Joey Porter, a name that people know as a strong coverage cornerback. Yeah, I think that's the only one really worth noting as far. Derek Stingley, I guess, on Calvin Austin. That's interesting. Kamari Lassiter on DK Metcalf. Derek Stingley on Calvin Austin. Interesting. But none of the matchups are going to scare me. Nico Collins, this is a strong matchup for wide receivers. He's 10,600, projected for 49 and 22 at captain. I'm getting to 32 and 19 at captain, so actually pretty well under the field at flex, but close to the field at captain. A little bit under the field both places, but I've got him in over 50% of my lineups. That's fine to me for Nico Collins. Looking at, let's pull up the last 4 games. And Nico Collins actually missed the last game for the Texans. In 3 games, 17 targets on 84.4% route participation, which is a little bit lower than like his usual. He's usually getting more than 6 targets per game. Strong matchup again for receivers. And honestly, we just don't have many sure things. I think Nico Collins is one of the higher floor players on the slate, and certainly maybe the highest ceiling of any player on the slate. So I like Nico Collins quite a bit. I think he's a strong captain option. Don't think I need to talk about him that much. Jaden Higgins, 7,200 projected for 7% flex ownership. Honestly, if he was getting much ownership, I wouldn't have a ton of interest in Jaden Higgins. But because he's only getting 7% ownership, yeah, I'll probably be above weight to the field there. The coaches keep talking about how much they like Jaden Higgins, how much he has earned his role. Looking at the route participation week over week. So this is the route share report. Higgins, it is like somewhat concerning to me that he went from 63 to 64 in weeks 15 and 16, and then down to 43% in week 17 before popping back up to 85% in the game that Nico Collins was out. Which, yeah, I didn't love that. Week 17 was the game where he went off against the Chargers. He had that awesome first half. He ended up with nearly 100 yards and a touchdown, I think, but only ran 43% of the routes for some reason. It is kind of crowded on the Texans. I will note we've got Nico Collins, Xavier Hutchinson has maintained a role, Christian Kirk taking back that primary slot role. Higgins and then Jalen Noel, they continue to keep involved. Also had a pretty big game in week 17 with a touchdown. We don't have Braxton Berrios in this game. I guess he's been out for a while. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit crowded, so it's tough to get that excited about a $7,200 Jaden Higgins. I think the best case for playing him is just that he's only getting 7% projected ownership. Looking at the last 4 weeks for Higgins, 13 carries on 65% route participation, so just over 3 carries per game, three targets per game, 65% route participation, and that includes a game where Nico Collins was out. So it's not a great role. Like he's clearly too expensive for his role as the wide receiver 3, I guess I would call him. maybe wide receiver 2. It's kind of beyond Nico Collins, not really clear. So yeah, he's not like a play that I love, but because he's not getting any ownership, yeah, I think it makes sense to be above weight. I'm going to disagree pretty strongly with what the Sims are giving me on Christian Kirk. I shouldn't say I'm going to disagree with it. I'm going to change because I think Christian Kirk is a fantastic play on this slate. Now, they've got him at 33%, 34% total ownership. I do think that is more than I've seen elsewhere. I guess RG has him at 4.5% captain ownership. They have Christian Kirk at 26%. So not actually that far off on Christian Kirk. The reason that I think Christian Kirk is a pretty strong play regardless is just that he's too cheap for his role. He's kind of the opposite of Jaden Higgins, where Jaden Higgins too expensive for his role, and as a result, he is not getting much ownership. Christian Kirk, I think, is too cheap for his role. Now, I guess 4 games, 11 total targets, so under 3 targets per game, 56% route participation. Not exactly an elite role for Christian Kirk, and in his highest route participation was that game without Nico Collins, but it has gone up every week for the last 4. So even before Nico Collins was out in week 18, we'd seen the role go up for Christian Kirk every game. And then on top of that, we have the matchup, schedule adjusted for slot receivers, second best possible matchup for slot receivers over the last 5 weeks. So I am not going to fade Christian Kirk. I think if he gets 34% ownership, honestly, I think that's fair. I guess I'll probably be closer to the field, but in a vacuum, I think he's a very strong play with decent floor for his price tag, and then obviously has some ceiling also. Yeah, great matchup for Kirk as a slot receiver. All right, let me take a sip and read comments. The Herb Ninja says Steelers by 20. You think so? It is. It is in Pittsburgh. You really think Dario will get 12%? I mean, I'm getting to 38% with him projected at 12%. I guess I can look at RG. They have him at 0%. Okay. Interesting. I bet if I had him at 0% in Run the Sims, I would get like 80% probably. All right. Jalen Ramsey, yeah, also on the Steelers. Stingley on a Metcalf, yeah, he's not being projected to be on Metcalf, right? Kamari Laster they've got on Metcalf. But it looks like there's just no shadow expectation. Agree with this also. After Collins, Houston wide receiver seems like roulette. I was definitely not asking you about a Telegram thing, Sean. If anybody is listening to this and does not know, there are many impersonators of me on Discord. So if you get a DM from somebody who says they're me, they're almost certainly not me. I don't just DM people on Discord. I'm never DMing anybody. So yeah, it's definitely not me. Higgins had a 26-yard touchdown call back in week 18, and Stroud only played... Oh, he only played in half that game. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, they do not appear to be targeting... Knowles has not really... I've thought he was going to earn more and more of a role as the season goes on, and he just has not for whatever reason. I still think that like Knowles is probably playable, but... Does Kirk have a higher route run percentage than Hutchinson and Knoll last 5 games? Yeah. I'll bring it up. Over the last 4 games receiving, route participation. Higgins at 65%, Kirk at 56%, Noel all the way down to 18%. So yeah, he is seemingly taken over as the slot receiver. All right. Yeah, please do like the stream if you haven't already done so. Always appreciate the support. That's funny. All right. Speaking of contingent running backs, what could be more frustrating than last night? My favorite player on the slate, the only person I mentioned in Discord because I didn't do a show, was Kimani Vidal. The run out was perfect. He just didn't do anything. He had all the carries. He was the clear top running back. Very low owned, cheap, and just didn't do anything. It was frustrating. But tonight, hopefully we get the contingent running back. All right. So Kirk, I'm going to flip what the Sims are doing, I think, a little bit and get at least close to with the field, at least on Christian Kirk, because I think he should see more targets in this matchup with the Steelers. Hutchinson, yeah, I mean, he was targeted a lot in the last game for a $2,400 receiver. He still does have a pretty strong role. 7% projected ownership. I'm getting to 6%. I think he's a strong contrarian play also. And then Noel, 2,800 projected for 4% ownership. I'm getting to 4%. It's tough because he doesn't play enough. We've seen him, break out for some touchdowns, even in games where he's not playing a ton. He has run 74% of his slots from the routes from the slot. So when he does play, he is primarily a slot receiver, as is Christian Kirk. He's too close in price to Kirk, just given their difference in usage. But yeah, I think Noel is still in play at 2,800 just because, again, he's a slot receiver. I think he's a talented receiver. Could, just see a touchdown. So I think he's a fine kind of dart throw. But in terms of usage, I would expect it to be like, if I had to guess the target share, which this is totally just guessing, but if I had to guess who's going to get the most targets on the Texans at wide receiver, it would be Nico Collins, number 1, Christian Kirk, number 2, Jaden Higgins, 3, Hutchinson, 4, Noel, 5 would be my guess if I had to take a stab at it. So make of that what you will, but that would be my best guess of the order for targets. On the Steelers side, we have DK Metcalf, 9,400 projected for 36% flex, 7% cap and ownership. I like the generally what the Sims are doing, which is giving me 19% at flex, so well into the field at flex, but well over the field at captain with 16%. I think that makes sense. Not a great matchup for DK Metcalf and Steelers receivers. Looks like at the bottom 10 or so matchup for receivers against Houston. But DK Metcalf, obviously a favorite target of Aaron Rodgers. So I still think he's a strong captain play. Looking at the usage for Steelers receivers over the last 4 weeks. We have, DK Metcalf missed 2 of those games. 12 targets on 79% route participation before his suspension, which honestly is kind of in line with his role. He has not been a target hog by any stretch. So he clearly leads the team. He's the top target on the Steelers, but it is 6 targets per game on the season. Aaron Rodgers just not really focusing on him as much as you would maybe hope for DK Metcalf. But still, he can break off a long touchdown. He could get more volume in a meaningful game. So I like DK Metcalf as a captain option, especially. I think he's a fine flex option, just getting a lot of ownership. And then it's sort of difficult to decipher the receivers on the Steelers beyond DK Metcalf. So let's just pull up the route share report. So since MVS and Adam Thielen joined the team in week 14, you can see MVS 40%, 63%, 53, 83 without Metcalf, and 82 without Metcalf. So the 3 games with DK Metcalf, maybe let's pull up that. Just bring up weeks 14 through 16. Maybe that's the better indicator. Although I think Kelvin Austin was out for at least one of these games too. No, he played. Okay. So in the 3 games after MVS and Adam Thielen joined the Steelers, with DK Metcalf still there, DK Metcalf 83% routes, MVS 52%, Thielen 35%, Austin 33%, Scotty Miller 15%. And then we also had Freiermuth get hurt, or not Freiermuth. We had Darnell Washington get hurt and miss week 18, which could potentially impact receivers. But I think, yeah, this is probably our best sample, is weeks 14 through 16. And again, it's clearly DK number 1. It is, I think, MVS number 2, although in targets, only 5 targets in those 3 games. MVS has seen more in recent weeks. That was with DK out, but let's see, targets in those weeks. Thielen out-targeted MVS 6-5. But overall, since joining the Steelers, MVS has out-targeted and ran more routes than Thielen. So this one's even tougher than the Texans. As far as a pecking order, I would say DK Metcalf number 1. I would probably say MVS number 2. At this point, Thielen 3 and Austin 4, but it's more. I think that's more debatable. I think that's the part that's probably the most debatable. It's mostly, I'd say, Russian roulette after DK Metcalf. You're hoping for a big player or two to pay off their price tags. Let's see. Whalen says Knowles' prop line is 5.5 yards on some pick'em sites. That feels about right. That is fair. Aaron says, I forgot that you need an offensive line to run the ball. Very true. I did not send you a friend request on Discord. I'm not sending friend requests to people. Oh, man. I hate you. They're great on our really cold 64-degree nights on the beach. You're the worst. All right. Higgins is heavily targeted in the red zone. Yeah, let's look at that. Who is being targeted the most in the red zone? So let's go. Last 5 weeks seems good. First of all, on the Steelers, MVS leads with 4 end zone targets, 5 inside the 20. Metcalf 3 and 4. Calvin Austin 2 and 1 inside the 20. Man, the tight end's not really being targeted as much as I would have thought. Kind of a small sample still. And then on the Texans, 1 inside the 20, 1 end zone target for Jaden Higgins over the last 5 weeks. Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz leading in end zone targets and inside the 20 targets. Cade Stover with 2 inside the 20 is kind of interesting. Huh, Jalen Noel, none. I do think of him as getting some of those occasional. Again, this is just the last 5 weeks, so pretty small sample size. But as far as the Steelers go, so DK Metcalf, looking at the ownership, because I think that is, and I think MVS getting the second most ownership on the Steelers is correct. Man, I didn't get to any MVS in my run of the Sims. I would like to get to some MVS. I do think that he's fairly likely to see the second most targets of the receivers. Thielen at 1% ownership, I got to 5% at 4,400. That feels about right. Calvin Austin at 3% ownership. I got to 3%. That feels right. Didn't get to any Scotty Miller. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think the only thing I would say I want some MVS, but also the Sims are looking at like long term more. They don't care about just tonight. You're trying to win the most money long term, and it's probably correct that you just don't play these low volume receivers because most of the time they're probably not going to do much. But my favorite plays at wide receiver, I would say Nico Collins, DK Metcalf. For me, it is Christian Kirk third, probably Jaden Higgins fourth, Hutchinson fifth. Maybe Hutchinson before Jaden Higgins. I guess they're getting the same. They're getting the same ownership, and Hutchinson way cheaper. So probably actually Hutchinson before Jaden Higgins for me, and then maybe MVS after Higgins. All right, tight ends. Dalton Schultz. All right. Dalton Schultz, 6,400 projected for 24% flex, 8% captain ownership. I got to 54% in the flex, 8% of captain. So Dalton Schultz looking awesome. Looking at the past 5 weeks. Again, leads the Texans in end zone targets with 3. Leads the Texans in targets with 26. Now he has played one more game than Nico Collins, but more than 5 targets per game on 76% route participation. Third best matchup for tight ends against Pittsburgh. So everything looking good for Dalton Schultz. Awesome role. 6,400 as he's really the number 2 pass catcher on the Texans. So we just talked about all the receivers, but Dalton Schultz beats all of them as far as being a top pass catcher. So yeah, I think it makes sense to be well over the field on Dalton Schultz. I might get to less as I try to get to some of the other receivers, but happy to be well over the field there. Cade Stover, 600 projected for 2% ownership. I got to 1%. Again, he does have 2 inside the 20 targets over the last 5 weeks. Fine dart throw. And then Harrison Bryant, I didn't get to any at 600, 0.6% ownership. I'm fine with that. Steelers, we have no Darnell Washington. Pat Freiermuth, 5,000 projected for 22% flex, 2% captain. I got to 25% flex, 3% captain. So slightly over the field on Freiermuth. We don't really have a sample size yet of DK Metcalf being back in while Darnell Washington is out. How much will that affect the roles of Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith? I think that he's probably going to maintain most of his role from the last couple of weeks. He was already at 49% route participation weeks 15 and 16. And then up to, obviously saw a big uptick with Darnell Washington out. Of course, DK Metcalf was also out, which might have affected things, but I would expect him to retain something close to his recent workload from week 17 and 18. So Freiermuth, fairly strong play. Jonnu has not really benefited from Darnell Washington being out. I mean, look at his route participation, just maintained. He's been mid-20s the last 5 weeks. Jonnu projected for 4% ownership at 4,000. I got to 3%. I think that's fine. And then Connor Hayward, 1,600 projected for 3%. I got to 2% Connor Hayward. He scored a touchdown in the last game, right? So they gave him the tush push in that game. Maybe they could do that again. I'm fine with 2%, not taking a big stand there. Why is Higgins going so overlooked when he's been almost like in a Wandale or Shakir role for this team? I mean, he just hasn't been. And he's, I mean, you were talking, the last game was with Nico Collins out. I think that you are significantly overrating the role for Jaden Higgins. Again, this is the last 5 weeks, 18 targets. We're talking under 4 targets per game including a game without Nico Collins, on 62% route participation. So I think that you are overstating the role for Jaden Higgins, and he's 7,200 is the reason. Like, I think he's a fine play. I think I'm going to be overweight at 7% projected ownership, but I would not say he has a Wandale role. Kickers and defenses, Kaimi Fairbairn, projected for 32.2% ownership. I got to 30%, none a captain. That seems fine. Texans, 4,600, projected for 16-2. I got to 25-1. Yeah, I like the Texans. They have such a strong defense. Aaron Rodgers not necessarily the best matchup because he's not going to make a ton of mistakes. But with this defense, I always like them if they're going to be lower owned like they are here. Steelers defense, 3,600, projected for 29-1. I only got to 12-1. I think they're a strong play in a vacuum because the Texans just don't have much of an offensive line. And the Steelers are a pretty good defense. So I like the Steelers defense, but they're getting a lot of ownership. So I think that makes sense. And then Boswell, 5,200, projected for 24-2. I got to 14%. No real issues with what I'm getting here. All right. I'm going to start making my lineups. Who returns punts for the Texans? Does anybody know this? I'm trying to think. I feel like I've watched enough Texans game that I should know this, but Noel does. Okay. Jalen Noel. Just don't forget that the Las Vegas Raiders went into Houston and put up like 350 plus yards of off. Is that true? Damn. All right. I did not move this down. Let's see. All right, going to adjust my lineups. So first of all, I like Christian Kirk way more than the Sims do. I think he's going to be targeted more than the Sims expect him to. And I like Nick Chubb better. So what can I do here? I'm not getting to Harrison Bryant anyway. Who was I getting? I mean, Jaden Higgins only a 12% target share, and I'm still getting well over the field. That's interesting. I guess the issue is just that they are too spread out in the passing game. $20.5. So maybe if I give them 22 points, 62 plays, slightly increase the pass rate. And the rush touchdown rate already super low though. Well, I'm going to bring Christian Kirk down to... I'm manipulating the numbers here, which I recognize is not always the optimal way of doing things. All right, we're going to normalize the ownership too. All right. I do like getting some Agumbawale, but I am going to... Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring CJ Stroud down to a 8% rushing market share. Nick Chubb up to 18. $19, because I don't think I actually need to give any to Agumbawale. And then touchdown rate up. Okay. I do kind of want to artificially give Christian Kirk a little bit more work also, so I'm going to take away some from Harrison Bryant. Okay. There we go. On the Steelers, there's giving me a ton of the running backs, which is good. I don't really think there's that much I wanted to change on the Steelers. Maybe a little bit more MVS. Yeah, that is. I'm just going to get rid of Scotty Miller. Okay. We'll try that. Rerunning. Favorite lineup in the top 10. I'll look at them. Kirk Knoll is a 50-50 toss-up. Could see Kirk playing a lot today if they trust the vets. I agree with you that Knoll is talented. It's just been Kirk has been seems to have, just based on the recent trends, seems like they trust Kirk a lot more. Yeah, totally fine playing both Steelers running backs. I think they're two of the best individual plays. I don't know if they're really that negatively correlated because they just use both of them a lot. And there could be some game scripts where they're just they get up, they want to run the ball a lot, and both are involved in the passing game somewhat. Yeah, no issue at all. If Knoll does score a kick return touchdown, where do the points go, Knoll or the defense? Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure Knoll gets. Actually, they both get 6 points for that, unless the scoring has changed. I guess it's not something I've thought about that much recently, but as far as I know, that is still. Oh, there's another super chat. Appreciate you, Caleb. Thank you for the reminder, also, Dan. Any quarterbacks for the last 20 years who didn't work out, but you wish did? Christian Ponder for me. Christian Ponder would be a great one for me as a Vikings fan. Christian Ponder is probably close to the top of the list. Trey Lance would have been, mostly because it would have been good for my best ball bags if Trey Lance had worked out. That would have been a lot of fun. Honestly, RG3, he was so fun for one season. If we could have gotten more of RG3, pre-injury, I would say he's up there. But yeah, Johnny Manziel, that's a good one. Johnny Manziel was fun. Yeah, I totally missed that super chat. Sorry about that. Yeah, for one season, it was very fun. Better play Jonnu or Calvin Austin? That's a good question. I'd probably say Calvin Austin. I still think there's more upside in Calvin Austin. Jonnu is he could score a touchdown. I think he's maybe more likely to score a touchdown, but I think there's more upside in Calvin Austin overall. Because it's more of we don't really know what to expect from the wide receivers. Oh, Jamarcus Russell. Yeah. That's also, Waylon, this is a great one. Andrew Luck. Yeah, just get Andrew Luck to stay healthy. All right. Looking at my top 10 lineups. Do I have a favorite? So we've got Stroud with Schultz, Agumbawale, Nico Collins, Woody Marks, Jalen Warren, bring back. Nico with Stroud, Schultz, Agumbawale, Gainwell, and Woody Marks. Woody Marks with Stroud, Schultz, Texans, Kami Fairbairn, Gainwell. That one leaves 2,900 on the table. Stroud with Stover, Schultz, Higgins, Warren, Collins, Schultz. Oh, look at this one. Leaves 3,800 on the table. So for this one to work out, the number 5 lineup here, you need Woody Marks. I don't remember exactly all the pricing, but you definitely need Woody Marks to outscore DK Metcalf and Aaron Rodgers and Jalen Warren, which all seems reasonable. And CJ Stroud, obviously, to outscore all of them as well. Oh, this one doesn't have Nico Collins either. Like, I'm tempted by that one, but I would prefer to have Nico Collins. Here it is. I think this is almost certainly my favorite. Nico Collins, captain with CJ Stroud, Christian Kirk, Dalton Schultz, Texans defense, and Kenneth Gainwell. Yeah, that's my favorite of the top 10. Leaves 1,500 on the table. Hits all the high notes for me. A lot of my favorite plays in that one. So I would say the number 6 lineup here: Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, Kirk, Schultz, Texans, Gainwell. Because I also love Nico as the captain. So I think that one's probably my favorite. I do kind of like Schultz at captain. The more I look at it, that's kind of number 8, kind of fun also. But yeah, give me number 6. All right, let's look at my player exposures. Man, this is going to go poorly for me if Rodgers does really well. If I don't change anything here, I'm getting to just 22% Rodgers overall, only 0.4% at captain, and getting to all the CJ Stroud. This is because I boosted up the Texans overall, even though I removed some of CJ Stroud's rushing work. Didn't matter. Getting a 65% flex, 23 captain of Stroud. Woody Marks getting to a ton still, 35 and 17 a captain. That looks great. I'm getting to less of Dare Ogunbowale now. I'm getting to 17 and 0.4% a captain, so that's okay. I'm now getting to 7% Nick Chubb, so at least a little over the field. And still over the field on both Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren. So I think I'm generally okay with these running back exposures. Like, this is not enough that I would adjust it more from here, I think. Wide receiver still getting to a lot of Nico Collins. That's great. I'm way less DK Metcalf now, so I probably adjusted things too far in the direction of the Texans. I am now up to 12% Christian Kirk, 20% Jaden Higgins plus 2 a captain, 7% Xavier Hutchinson, 1% MVS, 3% Calvin Austin, 4% Adam Thielen, 1% Jalen Noel. Okay. So I'm getting to too much CJ Stroud, I think, is what I'm finding. Because there's so many players I'm like, I'd like a little bit more there, I'd like a little bit more there. And the issue is just I'm getting way more. I like CJ Stroud quite a bit, but I don't think I need him in 88% of my lineups. So that might be an adjustment. And I might slightly adjust Dalton Schultz, also give some of his work to the receivers. Again, I think it's a great play. I'd like to be over the field. I don't know that I need him in 73% of my lineups. All right, so those are the biggest adjustments I need to make. So let's see. And maybe I'm going to download these. How many lineups? 225. And this is where maybe I could just use the filter. I'm trying to think if I need to do anything. No, maybe I'll do one. I'll try running the Sims one more time because I think I might want to get more candidate lineups with Christian Kirk. And I think it's actually just easier this way for me. And then I'll see if I need to filter. But let me check in on chat. Oh, I got another. Caleb. Another one. Appreciate you. Just throwing money at me left and right. You're the man. Do you remember Sam Rosen as an NFL announcer? Don't think he announced since 2016, but he was such a good announcer. Does only Rangers now, I think. I don't think I remember Sam Rosen as an NFL announcer. Again, I'm terrible at the remember a guy game. Other people in chat, do you remember Sam Rosen as an announcer? All right, let's see. Peter Porker asks, do you feel tonight is double kicker or double defense, or are you thinking this lineup goes for more points? I'd probably go double defense over double kicker, but I'm also biased. I never want to play the kickers, and I'm always wrong about that. So it's probably just my anti-kicker bias. It's funny because I love them in in flash drafts. I'll play the kickers all the time. But for some reason, I just want to play the other guys. All right. So let's see. I'm going to bring down CJ Stroud's rushing even more to 4%. Chubb up to 22. Ogunbowale up to 10. Oh, this is interesting. So the inputs have Dare Ogunbowale as like a clear goal line back, or like getting a ton of the goal line work. Only 10% rushing market share, but 25% rushing touchdown market share is interesting. And then I'm also going to, what is that? 1% too high. Here, I'm just going to, there we go. I'm also going to give a little bit of receiving work from Dalton Schultz to Christian Kirk. All right. I think that will be enough. And try running again. Anybody else trying to get to 10,000 steps a day? That's a thing I'm doing in 2026. And it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. A lot more time consuming. Now that because I'm recovering from a calf strain in late 2025. I think I'm over it now, but I'm still like hesitant to try jogging. So I'm just walking, and it takes so long to get 10,000 steps. Also, I just live a totally sedentary lifestyle. Just I work from home. Bathroom is 4 steps away. Gotta force myself to get to 10,000 steps. 10,000. It's like 4 miles, something like that. Collins and Stover or Gainwell and Kirk. I'd go Gainwell, Kirk. 8 miles a day. That's impressive. I know a lot of people just like get there naturally with their lifestyle, which I used to be a lot closer to that. Dan was saying on Twitter yesterday that it's about 2,000 steps per mile. I think I typically get more than 2,000 per mile, but not by that much. That's rough. Injuries are the worst when you're trying to exercise at all. $15 to $18 per day. Damn. Good for you. I do need to do some calf races. I think need to start doing more of that. Why do you want to do that many? Because I want to lose weight. I'm just overweight, and it's bad for my blood pressure, my just general health. Just want to be healthier. Standing treadmill desk would be nice. Yeah, Sean. Sean says, I'm good, but I'm a construction worker. When you're working construction, you're just getting a workout in naturally. I remember back when I was 18 and work, or, I guess younger, 16, did construction work for a summer and would go home and work out. And to me now, that seems insane. It's like you're getting such a great workout just doing construction work. And then I would go home and run to the gym and then do a full workout and run home. Yeah, insane. I think for most people, including myself these days, I'd be pretty happy with the workout from a day of construction. Yeah, also the dieting is I'm doing that also. Counting calories, cutting back on alcohol, doing all the health things this year. Sean, you think I don't have a watch that tracks all this? Thank you, DraftKings, for the Apple Watch. I've actually got a brand new Apple Watch from DraftKings from the Football World Championship, which maybe I'll start using at some point. I agree that you can leave some salary on this slate for sure. Yeah, I mean, you saw a lot of my top lineups were leaving like 3,000. B. Shannon says 10,000 steps really isn't that wild. You're probably closer to it than you think if you're active. Yeah, if you are active, it'll just happen throughout your day. The problem for me is I work from home, and again, like the bathroom is 4 feet away. Don't have a particularly large house. It is cold here. Sidewalks are all icy. Not going out enough. So gotta force it if you want to get your steps in, which I'm doing now. Have a contrarian single entry captain suggestion. I mean, Christian Kirk would probably be up there as one of my favorite contrarian captain options. I think let me look at the ownerships here. So Kirk at 4.5% at RG, so not as contrarian. Jaden Higgins would work there as a contrarian captain option. Looks like this is. I got to get my lineups in, but I think RG at least had the Steelers running backs is pretty low owned at captain. Yeah, they've got Jalen Warren at 2.5%. Kenneth Gainwell at 3.5%. Probably Kenneth. I mean, if Kenneth Gainwell actually comes in at 3.5%, he's a fantastic captain option. He'd probably be my favorite. Like Pat F or Higgins more. Probably Higgins. I do. I've got a disc golf course a mile away from me. I need to, and I don't think I went once this year. All right. How are we looking? A little bit more Rodgers now. Only slightly less Stroud. Good amount of Collins. 10% Metcalf captain, 16% flex. Kirk, I'm up to 24%. Higgins, 23. Hutchinson, 7. I don't have any MVS now. Okay, don't love that. He's going to bury me. Up to 8% Chubb, 32% Dara Gumbawale. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm going to try. First, I'm going to download these. Gainwell, Marks. Am I still getting enough Schultz? Yeah, still enough Schultz, I'd say. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to download these. And then I'm going to attempt just real quickly to limit some of my Stroud, 15% captain, Stroud, %65 flex, and then Agumbawale, 20% flex. Crap, were there others? I think that's probably it. All right, that's all I need to do. And now I'm going to do reoptimize portfolio with top 2,000 lineups. And we'll see if I have time to actually do this, but worth a shot. Oh, but I still need to get these lineups in. So I will at least get in these new ones. And then we'll see if I get in this last set. You as well, Aaron. Yep. Getting hit with some bots now. Damn. Sean's son brought him a $3,500 computer. That's insane. Congrats on the new computer, and good son you got there. You must have been a good dad for your son to bring you a $3,500 computer. Good for you. All right. All right, this is probably not happening in time. Final Monday Night Football of the season. It's been a fun long ride. I'll be getting content out there next week for the divisional round. Not sure what it's going to look like yet. And then best ball season is coming. Hopefully some of you will hop on board the best ball train this year. It's a lot of fun. It always is. In the off season. Yeah, I don't think this is going to happen in time. Oh, there we go. All right, let's see. Gonna try. No. Oh, weird. It says successfully uploaded 57 out of 225. That's interesting. So I have no idea. I have no idea what my exposures look like now. Because apparently it did it like right at the last second. Interesting. Flanover's Discord, free to join if you're interested in checking it out. There's a link in the description of this video. You'll hear Sean's beautiful voice from time to time. Yeah, hope to see you there. Good luck, everybody. Hopefully you make some money tonight. Hopefully we all make some money tonight. Let me know how you do. Love to hear it. You can find me on Twitter @PlayerQDFS. Yeah, good luck. Good luck tonight. I'll see you guys in the Discord or see you next week.